They kept knocking. I was still scared about what the smiling man had said. I was still scared of how quickly these agents dressed in black found about it, and how quickly they found me. I turned the knob and opened the door, and there they were. Both men were more than 2 meters tall and had pale gray skin. They had really thin mouths and no lips. They wore dark sunglasses in the middle of the night, spotless black suits and shoes, and also had black hats. One of them had a briefcase, and the other was carrying an umbrella. The one to my right spoke, and I identified him as the man I just spoke on the phone, Agent Smith. His voice was mechanical, without any emotion, like he was articulated by a machine, cold and sharp. "Good evening, Mr. Richards. My name is Agent Smith. This is my partner, Agent Miller. We come from a government agency in charge of investigating paranormal activity." He gestured towards the other man, who didn't do anything or acknowledge that he was being introduced. He just stood there. "Can we come in?" "Of course," I said. I gestured them towards the couch. Miller sat with his legs together, his back straight, on the palms of his hands on his knees. Smith just stood next to him. "From which area of the government you depend? Presidency, military, national security?" "None of them," he replied. "We are above them. We answer to a higher organization." I was thinking what that could mean, but before I could say anything he spoke. "I would like to continue with our conversation," he started, "about this being we know you saw." "Can I beg your pardon?" I replied. "I think you're mistaken. I just arrived home from work. I do not know what you're talking about." Deep down me, I started to have the feeling that there was no way of fooling these men. I was wondering if they, like the smiling man, could read minds. That very moment, he wiped out my doubts about it. "Look, Mr. Richards, here's what we're going to do. You tell us everything you know about this incident, and nothing will happen to your father or your friend Elizabeth, whom we just met. We could also avoid spreading the news that you peed on yourself." His voice was emotionless, but now I knew it was a threat. He took off his hat and his sunglasses. His head was completely bald. It did not look like he went bald. It was more like he had never had hair. His eyes were 2 emotionless little black dots that were transfixed on me. Fear started yet again to run through my spine, and with every word he said, it worsened. "We know you met tonight a certain individual that claims to be from Proxima Centauri, studying this planet's society to see if it fits to join some sort of galactic government. We also know that he asked some questions, and we would like you to tell us the nature of them. What did he want to know, and especially, what did you tell him?" I was too afraid to answer. How on earth these men knew so much of what had just transpired? It could not be possible, but then again, I remembered that probably they could read minds. After a while of silence, he came closer to me and started again. "We also know that he told you that if mankind did not pass this test of theirs, we'll be wiped out from the face of the universe. Did he say anything else to you?" All the memories of my encounter with the smiling man came back to me vividly, but somehow there was something that he told me that the men in black did not know about. They did not know about his return. He kept on going without waiting for my answer. "Did he tell you anything when he is coming back? When this decision will be made?" This information was eye-opening. If I had any doubts about what the smiling man had said, these men dressed in black were confirming it. Somehow, they knew about this test we needed to pass, but did not know how much time we had left. I wanted to tell them what I knew, what the smiling man had told me. But then again, these men seemed alien too. No human was physically like them or behaved like them. Smith seemed to know what I was thinking, so he came even closer to me and he whispered on my ear, "Let me help you." On that moment, he grabbed my left arm with his right hand. That was the coldest touch that I have ever felt. But what was worse were the images that I was seeing inside my head. My house burning while my father was inside. My friends killed in car accidents. My girlfriend being kidnapped and murdered, and myself committing suicide. Those images were inside my head, but seemed so real. I heard his voice again in what felt like many hours later, but mere moments should have passed. Look what might become of your life if you do not cooperate. You don't want such an end to it just because you didn't help us. The place on my arm where he grabbed us burned. I could feel the pain, but he had already released me. Are you willing to talk now? He said. I had no choice, and if they really were government, they could do something to avoid the fate we were sure to have. I told them everything that had happened from the moment List arrived to the store to the moment they knocked on my door, including the exact words the smiling man said. Also told them that he would return in 100 years to pass the final verdict and let us join their society or wipe us out. There's one thing I did not tell them though. I never told them that the smiling man assured me that I was going to be alive when he returned in 100 years and that we will meet again. After hearing what I said, Smith turned to his partner and said softly, So, in 100 years they will come. Too much time, I think. The other man, Miller, said nothing. He had remained from the moment he arrived in the same position, sitting with his back straight and his hands on his knees. Then Smith turned back to me again. This information you conveyed to us is of utmost importance, and now we have the final piece of the puzzle, Mr. Richards. Do not worry about what he said or what he might have suggested. You are safe. I didn't know if what he was telling me was comforting or scared me even more. But then he continued. I'm giving you a final warning, Mr. Richards. Anything that has transpired tonight, you will not tell anybody about it. Understand? When I say anybody, it means your father, your friends, your girlfriend, but that also includes social media, any internet service, journalists, radio shows, television, newspapers, or any massive communications media. We do not want to start a global crisis for this. Global crisis? If this man thought that this knowledge could start a global crisis, it meant that this was true, and they knew it. What if this is true? I finally said, finding some valor I did not know I had. What if we, as a society, don't change and they return? They will destroy us all. Smith said nothing, but for the first time Miller interacted. He took off his glasses and his eyes, like his partners, were blue. But this shade of blue was not natural in a human being. They seemed fake. They stood up and walked towards me. Mr. Richards, let me give you 2 lessons for the rest of your life, which will be very short if you don't comply with our request. He said it in a tone which was emotionless and mechanic, just like his partners. First, humans are evil, greedy, selfish, and murderers by nature. You kill each other and other living beings just for fun. You pollute, consume all the resources of one place in an unsustainable way and move to the next place and start again with the cycle. You are worse than a virus. You, humans, deserve to become extinct. These men were not humans. Miller had just confirmed that. Despite he made sure I knew their intention was to let mankind go extinct, they were right. Mankind has shown again and again that we are violent beings that only care about ourselves, taking advantage of anything on our path, killing without need, destroying the planet, consuming the resources at an alarming rate. They were right. Miller smiled at me, knowing I had just understood their point and knowing that they were right. Good boy. Now, the second lesson I want to teach you is this. Search in your pants left pocket. I put my hand inside my pocket and found a lighter. I don't smoke or anything, so the only conclusion that came to me is that they somehow put it into it. Do you see it? Can you feel it? It's beautiful, isn't it? It was a pure golden, old-fashioned lighter. It had an inscription on a language I did not understand, and there was an eagle carrying a snake on its claws. This is what will happen to you if you speak of this to anyone, he said on a malicious tone for the first time. The lighter ignited, fully ignited, catching fire. It was burning in my hand, but wasn't burning me. Then after it burned for a few seconds, it started to become lighter and transparent until it disappeared completely, leaving no trace behind. He had just warned me and made sure I understood. "Are we clear?" he asked. I nodded. "Good," he said. "Smith, we're leaving. With this information, we will be finally able to cleanse this planet. A pity it will take 100 years." All this time, Smith had remained quiet, saying nothing, not even moved. He came back like a robot that had been deactivated and had just rebooted. "Yes, we're leaving," he said. "Do not forget about our warning. We will be watching you. We are always watching." They went by themselves to the door. When they reached, turned at the same time, and Miller said again in that cold, malicious voice, "On a second thought, yes, you can speak about this with your friend Elizabeth. She would find the topic most entertaining." For the first time he smiled, but an evil lipless smile. Then both turned around and left the house. I stood up and went to the door to make sure they were leaving. When I got there, they were already inside the car. Both turned to look at me, and the car started to move. But at the same time, just like the lighter, they disappeared at the spot right in front of my eyes without leaving a trace. I managed to close the door and walk back to my chair. I've been crying for the past 3 hours. It's almost 4 a.m. and I haven't been able to sleep. I can't believe they know what's going to happen and do nothing about it. How they plan to let mankind go extinct. It seems there's nothing I can do about it. I should live the rest of my life knowing that humans will meet their fate, meet their end. That will be, of course, after I have died, so, well, no worries for me there. I will not be around when it happens. Unless... The smiling man told me I will be there when he returns. But that's impossible. An instant message at this hour? Who might be? It is an unknown number. What does it say?
"I will be back. And yes, you will see me again. Yes, you will."
If you reached this far, please give us a like, consider subscribing, activate notifications, and follow us on social media. Soon, we'll be back with more Inside the Cleft.